So I have a spooky story for you, and this one takes us to a factory. There's two coworkers, Sophie and Peter, and they work the third shift. So I think that's from like 12 to 8 a.m. or something like that. Just overnight, basically, into the morning. Now, Sophie and Peter have a ritual. Every morning they come in. Depending on who gets there first, one of them will yell Marco and the other one will yell Polo until they find each other. The game gets so popular between the two of them that they invite other co-workers to play with them. So at any given time, there could be a game of Marco Polo going in this factory. And sometimes they find each other in the weirdest of places. So there's one day where Sophie goes to work. She pulls into the parking lot and she sees Peter's car there. So she gets a head start on the game. She goes in through a separate entrance across the other side of the factory and the games begin. She yells out Marco and she hears Polo. And she knows that she's getting closer. And again, she calls out Marco and then behind her she hears Polo. But both voices sound like they're Peter's voice, so she doesn't know which one to follow. The factory echoes, so she turns around and she heads back towards the direction she had come from. She yells Marco again, and again she hears Polo. But now she's heard it from the opposite direction, so she's getting a little confused, and she's like, well, maybe there's multiple coworkers that are playing right now, so I'm just going to continue in the direction that I was going. Now, as she's doing this, she sees the lights flickering in the factory, so she cuts them on, and they don't cut on, right? It's like the circuit is blown or something. Now, in the distance, she can see somebody crouched down behind one of the forklifts, and she's like, I've got him. But today, she decides she's gonna sneak up on him. And so she knows she's locked in. She decides to go around and surprise him from the back. But when she gets there, there's nobody at the forklift. Now, this is weird because it should have only been like a 2-second walk to where she was from to the other side of this, right? He wouldn't have been able to see her, but she should have been able to see him. But again, vanished into thin air. So she calls out Marco again and she hears Polo. So this time the Polo is in front of her. So she walks back down this very long and dark hallway, and that's when she sees somebody walk across the hallway. So at this point she's a little nervous, but she's determined to win this game. So she chases after Peter and she ends up going down this other very long hallway, and she sees somebody walking across again. But this time it's a woman. So she's like, wow, this is a really intense game this morning, and she's almost running out of time. She's got to actually be at her station. But once she gets down the hallway, she realizes that it is vacant. Flickering lights, just a creepy atmosphere. And so she calls Marco again, and this time something reaches out and grabs her. Now, she doesn't know who it is, but it startles her. She turns around to see who it is, and there's this disfigured body. It's got its hands on her. It's decrepit. The neck looks like it's been broken, and she runs off. She gets out of its grasp, and she heads down this very long hallway, and as she's doing that, the lights flicker on as she's running, as though they're chasing her as well. She rounds the corner, and all of a sudden, she hears Polo again, and she bumps into Peter. Now, Peter is looking at her like, what's going on? And she was like, hey, there's a ghost in here or something. Peter's holding her, trying to get her to calm down so she can tell him the rest of the story. But all Sophie's trying to do is drag the both of them down the rest of the hallway to get into a common area where there's a lot of light, and Peter eventually gets the point. And so they go to this area where she starts to feel safe, although she wants to go home for the day. But Peter sits her down and he asked her what happened. Sophie is visibly shaken, and that's when Sophie tells him about how she was playing Marco Polo. She had heard Peter's voice and she followed it. And she had heard it behind her, in front of her, beside her. And it was really disorienting, but she decided that Peter was just trying to get a leg up. So she followed the voice as the game prescribes, and she eventually gets to that hallway where she sees the specter or the ghost. And so as Peter's sitting there looking at her, Sophie's getting mad because he's just got this blank look, right? And she's thinking he doesn't believe her. So he sits down beside her and he tells her a story as well. He was like, wow, I actually think that is so crazy because the same thing happened to me. I'd gotten here this morning. There were no cars in the parking lot. So I went in, set up my station, and I thought I heard you come in. I said Marco, you said Polo. And I saw you in the distance moving, and so I followed you. And when I got to the area that I thought you were in, I heard you say Polo behind me. I turned around to follow you back the way you came, but that's when I saw you at your station. I was headed that way until I heard you scream Marco. But you sounded much farther away than you could have been. You were only about 40 feet in front of me, and I know what you look like. But I heard somebody say Polo behind me. It sounded exactly like you. And that's when I started to chase that voice and ran into you here. Now, Sophie was looking at him the way he was looking at her previously, and they decided on that day to no longer play Marco Polo. Now, the weird thing is that they told their other coworkers about what happened, and several of them had had similar experiences. So I want to know what you guys are thinking. Could it have been a mimic? Maybe the factory was haunted. It was an old factory. Maybe there's just some rogue spirits or poltergeists, some PK out there. Drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to know what you guys are thinking, and I will see you guys in my next video.